Signs of codependency. Codependency is really related to loneliness, that fear of being alone. But what codependency really boils down to is our inability to individuate. It's our inability to individuate, or failure on some part to individuate. So ideally, while we're growing up, we're supposed to gradually become more and more differentiated from our parents, differentiated from our siblings, more and more of an individual. But what can happen with complex trauma or the way that our parents train us could train us to be codependent. So they could raise us to become very dependent on them, or raise us to be a parentized child, raise us with an idea like we are supposed to be the hero, like we're supposed to come to the rescue. And so I'm going to give to you the signs of codependency. These are the signs of codependency, and you can assess for yourself if you are a codependent person. Of again, being an empath makes you susceptible to being codependent. It's not the same thing, but being an empath makes you susceptible to being that codependent because as an empath, you're already naturally concerned with and feeling the feelings of others. It is a major concern for you how others are feeling because you can feel their emotions inside your body. At least that's what the sensation is like. And so if another person is suffering, that's a big bother for you. What happens with codependency is you don't just feel those emotions, but you really take on those feelings, those problems, those issues, the suffering of other people. You take it on, meaning you think that it is your job, it is your purpose to get out there and solve the problem. You think that it's your job to solve another person's problem. And so here's some of the signs of codependency because it can manifest itself in different ways. If you tend to be needy or clingy, that could be one way that codependency could manifest itself. It's not necessary that every codependent person comes off as needy or clingy, but if people have told you that you're a little bit needy or clingy, that could be because you're codependent. You have failed to individuate and realize that you don't have to always be with the other person, around the other person, needing the other person all the time for your entertainment and for your comfort. Likewise, when we become greatly offended that the other party is not needy or clingy toward us, that also is a form of codependency. Another sign of codependency is reassurance seeking, when you're constantly seeking reassurance from your partner. Like, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? Am I okay? Did I do okay? Did I do a good job? Did you like it? Do you like it? Too much of the seeking of the reassurance is codependent because you haven't individuated enough to feel confident to stand on your own without needing someone else to tell you you're okay to stand there, right? So we're reassurance seeking. On the inverse, we're also being codependent if we feel the need to constantly reassure the people around us. Are you okay? I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, you're okay. Just so you know, hey, you're doing fine. Hey, it's going to be okay. Hey, don't worry. Hey, I got it. We're trying to reassure everyone else all the time. It's okay to reassure people. Okay. But it's codependent when it's a constant thing. And you feel like you can't be okay until you reassure them. So I remember I had this situation with Morena, the woman that I dated who had CPTSD that was mentioned in my book. And Morena and I were just in traffic, something benign. And I was like, oh, man, that sucks. We're not going to make it to whatever appointment it was. And she could sense that, I guess I was not 100% chipper. So she goes, that's okay. It's okay. And I looked over at her and I'm like, this is a strange thing that you do. You feel the need to like contradict a statement or a feeling that I express. So if I say something sucks or it's too bad, then you contradict it and say, no, it's going to be okay. And I and I wanted to get to the bottom of why she did that. So through discussion, she helped me to understand that the reason she was doing that is because it wasn't safe for her growing up when her parents didn't feel good. So if her parents expressed a negative emotion, like, oh, we're in traffic, I'm upset, or we're going to be late, that could ruin the whole day. That could ruin the whole evening. Right. And so she was still in that pattern of codependency, thinking that she needed to reassure me and manage my emotions and my feelings so that if I expressed a negative feeling, it wouldn't be safe for her to just leave it there. She had to tell me it was going to be okay. So I explained to her, you don't have to manage my emotions. I manage my own emotions. If you ever notice, if I express a down feeling or whatever, it'll only last for a few minutes and then I'll be fine. So something like traffic is not going to ruin my day. It's just, that sucks. I don't think we're going to make it now. Anyway, and everything's going to be fine. You actually don't have to say anything in that case. If anything, what I would be looking for is more of a relating, a fellow feeling that you feel the same way. Like, oh yeah, that's too bad. And so that was the first time that I had encountered someone who felt the need to reassure others, but this is a form of codependency. Another example of codependency is the being the person who can never say no. Are you a never say no Ned or a never say no Nancy? So whenever somebody asks you to do something, it's always yes. Hey, can you help us move tomorrow? And you're like, sure, yeah. And meanwhile, tomorrow is like your graduation, right? But you're so just never say no that you're just like, "Oh, I'll find a way to make it work. I have to be there for people. When they ask me for things, I have to do whatever it is they want. If they want something from me, I have to give that to them. That's a never say no attitude. It's a form of codependency. It's a sign that we could be codependent. On the other hand, you could be on the inverse, someone who can't take a no. So the fact that you asked a friend for help and they said no greatly disturbs you. It greatly bothers you. It troubles you. How could they do this? How could they not be there for me? They should be there for me. I expect people to be there for me. Are you that type that wants people to be there for you? And when they're not there for you, then you go, oh, I thought we were friends. We're not truly friends if you're not there for me. I expect someone to be there for me. All the things I've done for you. But if you examine that closer, you're putting so much emphasis on what you've done for them as if they're supposed to be an inverse direct payback. So that means that when you were doing those things for them, you weren't really doing them out of the goodness of your heart. It means that you were doing those things for them, always expecting that you would get something in return. And that's why now you're all dysregulated, that they're not going to do something for you because you did something for them. You see, you're making it a tit for tat instead of having just given freely from the heart out of true generosity, right? And so that's forms of codependency. These are signs that we may be codependent, feeling like anything we do for another person, we're really doing it because we're hoping they're going to do something for us, or being very upset when they don't do something for us. Now we can't take a no. So if you're one of the people who can't say no and you don't take no's well, that's codependency. Along those same lines, just failure to set boundaries. Basically the same idea. You don't have the ability to speak up and let people know what it is you want or need from them or wish they wouldn't do. Assertiveness, along with setting boundaries, is just the ability to tell people the truth. Here's how a healthy person talks to their friends. This could blow your mind. Hey man, stop doing that. That's annoying. Just chill. Do you talk to your friends that way? That's how a healthy friendship looks. We tell our friends when they're being irritating or annoying to us. We tell our friends when they're being too irritating or annoying to us. Why? Because it's going to affect your enjoyment, your happiness, and your relationship if you keep allowing them to be irritating and annoying to you. And you keep biting your lip and grinding your teeth. And then what happens? Then you start avoiding them because you don't like them. And you resent them for not understanding your needs and your boundaries. But you are failing to advocate for yourself, right? So a sign of codependency is that you're failing to advocate for your own needs. You're failing to tell someone what it is you want, or you're codependent because when someone tells you what their needs are, or what they want, or what they don't like, you can't handle it. And yes, it will preserve the friendship. It will that is the one thing that can actually save your friendship is to be able to look at your friend and be like, "Hey, girl, you got to cut that out because that is so irritating to me. Please don't do that. I'm sorry. That is just irritating. Please don't do that around me." You got to be able to say that to your friends. That saves the relationship. As painful as it might be in the moment, as embarrassing as it might be for them, if they love you, they now have an opportunity to change in a way that will allow them to continue to be in your orbit. If they want to continue to have access to you, to your resources, then now they know what they need to do. But when you're being sneaky, deceitful, no, I can't tell them. I can't. I can't speak up like that. I can't make them feel uncomfortable. Okay. You're not a hero. You're quite the opposite. You are a sneaky, snaky villain by failing to be assertive. And what's going to happen is you're going to abandon them. That's what's going to happen. You've set them up to be abandoned, and they're going to cry, and their heart's going to be broken. They're going to wonder why they lost their best friend. They're going to wonder why you don't ever want to go out with them. You don't ever want to play with them. They're going to wonder why. And it's because you just refuse to tell them reality, to tell them just the truth, to just get that moment of awkwardness and be like, hey, just this one thing you're doing, it's irritating. I need you to change that for me. Just that one moment. It's all you had to do. The earlier we do this, the better. We want to go right up front, tell people what it is, right? But the failure to do that could be a sign of your codependency, or your inability to handle it when someone else does it could be a sign of codependency. Along those lines, avoiding conflict, sign of codependency, perhaps. If you're avoiding conflict, you're afraid. The reason why a lot of times we're afraid of conflict is because we don't have the skills of conflict resolution. We don't have the skills of assertiveness, so we don't know how to do it. So we just think that a conflict is going to lead to a disaster, like a nuclear holocaust is going to occur if we get into a conflict with our relative. And this could be because of the complex trauma from her family, right? One woman I worked with, she used to live with her brother, and she said, I confronted him one time. I held everything in, but one time I confronted this guy. He was an unconfrontable guy. I confronted him one time. It was when I knew I had everything set so that if he kicked me out, I would be fine. And you know what he did? He totally crashed out. The one time that I confronted him on one thing, he didn't respect my feelings at all. He crashed out. He kicked me out, and he never spoke to me again. To this day, he won't speak to me. So now I'm afraid of conflict because I lost this family member just like that, just for speaking up. But the reality, if you're in a situation like that with a person where you're walking on eggshells, trying to keep them, you never had them. They're in a relationship with your mask. They're not in a relationship with you. You never had them. You're back. They're forcing you to be the sneaky snake so that you can keep them satiated and appeased in hopes that they don't leave and abandon you. Them leaving and abandoning you would be the best thing that could happen to you. As traumatic as that was for the person, honestly, if she would have done it 10 years earlier, which is not easy because this was her caretaker, but if she would have done it 10 years earlier and he would have crashed out, she would have gone through a temporary period of trying to figure out where she was going to go, what she was going to do. Then she would have ended up probably moving in with her aunt or whatever and been raised in a better environment and therefore not have the extent of complex trauma that she has. It's a cycle of abuse, and we're feeding into the cycle by failing to show up as authentic and to set boundaries, avoiding conflict. On the other hand, if you're the person who seeks conflict, that's codependent in another way, destructive as well. Like you're always just trying to start a fight about something. You ever do that? Like, it's too peaceful. We need to fight. And then you just pick a reason to start a fight with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Just, what is this? How come, why are these shoes in the garage? Why is this a big deal? One person was pointing out about narcissists, that's why they do that, you realize. When they're starting a fight over something like shoes in the garage, it's like, why do they get so mad? Why do narcissists get so mad about everything that doesn't matter? They're not mad. They're not mad. It's a codependency mechanism. It's a tactic they use to manipulate you. If they can start a fight, then they keep you off balance, they keep you on edge, and they want to see that you're going to kowtow and do whatever it takes to please them, right? So understand this is codependency, where you're starting conflicts on purpose, you're seeking conflict, or you're avoiding conflict. All of that is codependency. If you are in a relationship with, or you know someone who has borderline personality disorder, these are individuals who may often have difficult, complex problems that they want your help solving. If you have someone who has complex problems that they want your help solving all the time, oh, I'm getting kicked out of my, they're a person in your life who always has an issue. There's always an emergency. That's how you'll identify these people, right? Do you have anyone like that you know they always have an emergency and they're calling, texting you, hey, can I sleep over? You know, I just got in a fight. Hey, I need the help with the so. I don't know how to do. Can you help me with the so and so? Right? And we love these people. They have good hearts, right? It's not that they're bad people. A lot of times we love them because they have good hearts, but we want to help them. But the problem is helping them is a bottomless pit because they never climb out. Like if you were helping a healthy person, it's not wrong to help someone, but when a person is healthy, they take your help and they don't take it for granted. They say thank you very much, and you don't hear from them again because they figure it out. They're embarrassed to be in that situation of needing help. They figure it out to never be put in that situation again. So you have to help them maybe one, maybe two times, and they get independent. These are individuals who have individuated. But what happens with a person with borderline personality disorder, many of them, is they're not individuated. So they still think that there's some type of mommy or daddy that needs to be stepping in. And they're happy to come to you to play that role because they've already burnt several other people in their lives. And so they will come to you for everything. I had a person in my life, and obviously as as a therapist, I have several borderline people in my life, but I had one particular person before I was in therapy. When I was in business, there was an employee who reached out. Oh my God, this is terrible. The mob is after me. I'm going to get killed if you don't help me. I'm going to lose my life tonight. They're coming after me. In this case, I did help the individual. I did help the individual. And I helped them move around and get on their feet and hide from the mob, right? I was trying to keep them alive. It seemed serious. It was intense. Did they ever become independent? Not easily, not on their own. But after a year, and I worked with them and helped them to get on their own feet, I got them independent enough and I stepped away. One of the most important things we have to be able to do with being able to overcome these codependent people who are relying on you to solve all their problems is detach from the outcome. You have to be able to detach from the outcome. It is not your job to make sure that they feel better. It is not your job to make sure that everything works out for them. So even if you do offer some help or some assistance when you're in that position to, you have to be able to detach from the outcome. Sadly, I really was helping this person to stay alive because about a year after I was out of this person's life, they did die. But what kept me from losing myself or getting dysregulated? I have to be able to detach from the outcome. So if you have someone in your life where everything is an emergency all the time and they always need you, understand basic principles to help you to keep from becoming codependent with them. Basic principles. Number one, you have to stay detached from the outcome if you're going to try to help someone. You can offer the assistance out of the goodness of your heart, but don't think that means that everything's going to be great. Number two, you cannot help someone that's not going to try to help themselves. You cannot help someone that's not going to help themselves. So you can give them the money and give them the stuff, right? But if they are just going to end up keeping having to come back, it's sort of like that concept. You could teach a person to fish, or you can catch them a fish, or something like that, right? And so, but if you're catching them the fish, then they just rely on you and they keep coming back. So don't be that type of helper who just does everything for someone, who thinks they need to solve the problems for the person, because it's better to help them to learn to solve the problems for themselves. It's much better to help someone to find the employment for themselves than to give them the money, right? Teach them to fish, not just teaching them or going and catching the fish for them. And so what happens to us if we're suffering from codependency is we feel like it's our job to solve people's problems. So another principle that we have to remember, we cannot solve other people's problems. Life is problem solving. That's what life is. You're taking away a person's agency to solve their problems. You're making them more crippled, not helping them. You're making them more crippled to solve their problems. So think in terms of how can I help this person to become more independent instead of how can I continue to be this person who steps up and solves their problems. And by the way, it can feel really good when you were that parentized child or you have the white knight syndrome, both of which I suffered from, right? Where you like to be the hero. So you like to step up when somebody calls you. There's a little piece of you that's like, ah, yes, yes, I have purpose in life. I have value here. Yay. I'm glad I can do something. It's not our primary purpose in life to solve everyone else's problems. You can help people, but make sure you're helping people where it aligns with your purpose. So identify your purpose and make sure you're helping people where it aligns with your particular purpose. That's who you focus on. Set those boundaries. When a person then comes, then you know that some people you'll have to say no to. I'm sorry. My purpose is not to help people who are in your situation. My purpose is to help these people here. So we can't always say yes. So along those lines, we have to develop the ability to sometimes say no. You could be the type of person who needs the other person to feel okay in order for you to feel okay. Do you suffer from that? That could be a part of the way you were raised with CPTSD, feeling like you need them to feel okay so you can feel okay. That's codependency. Again, codependency is defined as the failure to individuate, the failure to individuate. So over stressing and over involving ourselves in others' affairs so that we can make them feel better, so that we can feel better is codependency. We need to individuate. Here's my feelings. Here's your feelings. I'm detached from the outcome. What's a principle we can understand about feelings? Feelings come from thoughts and perceptions. The reason they feel the way they do is because of their thoughts and perceptions. Can you control another person's thoughts and perceptions? No. So therefore, you cannot make a person feel better. That doesn't actually exist. We say that in English, but that's not accurate. We can't make a person feel, oh, you made me feel better. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You can do something to affect their perception and their thoughts, right? You give someone a gift and they say, oh, that made me feel good. It didn't make them feel anything. It's just that their perception now is focused on something good. They feel better. That's all it is. Our feelings follow our thoughts and perceptions. So it's not your job, because it's not even possible to make a person feel anything. You can't make a person feel. You can offer some helpful thoughts, some helpful perception switches, but you cannot make a person feel. So detach from the outcome. Detach from the outcome. So you can literally write, that person says, hey, I need help. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. You say, hold on a sec. You can write down 1, 2, 3. I'm going to offer them this perspective, this perspective, this perspective. Then I'm done. See, I'm setting those boundaries on myself. Now I'm not going to get wrapped up. I'm not going to get lost in trying to help them. I'm not codependent. So I give them perspective 1. They say whatever, I don't care. I give them perspective 2. They say whatever, it doesn't matter to me. I give them perspective 3. And they say, you know what? None of this is really helping. I say, I'm so sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, though, my time is up, and that's all I have for you. I do hope for the best. Goodbye. And you hang up the phone. That is the ability to individuate. You need to have this ability. It's not your job to make them feel better. Don't stay on the phone until they feel better. It's not your job. One man I was working with said, for the sake of my siblings, I tell them to call me when our mom's upset. He's a grown man. Call me when our mom's upset and I'll let her vent out to me. And that way you guys don't have to deal with the brunt of her anger. Mom's a narcissist. This is exposing yourself to toxicity under the valiance that you're going to help others, white knight syndrome. But all you're doing is sacrificing yourself. And for what? Are you helping a person that's going to help themselves? No, no. Therefore, you're just locked in a codependent cycle. So let's remember, it's better to teach a person to fish than to catch the fish for them. Let's remember that even if a child were to come to us and ask us for help, as a child is growing, we'd want to teach them to be independent. For instance, how to fix their own snacks, right? As a child gets older, they learn how to fix their own snacks. And that's good for you, isn't it? Then you don't have to get up every single time the child wants a snack or wants something to drink. So it's good to teach them, right? It's good to help them to become an individual. So you must do that as well with your siblings, with your friends, family, coworkers, employees, whomever. And understand that you can't actually help a person that isn't going to help themselves. You can't actually help a person that isn't really going to step up and do it for themselves ultimately. These thoughts and these factors will help us to slip into being codependent. It's an untrue idea that you're not complete on your own as you are, that you can't be a complete, happy, autonomous individual as you are. That's incorrect. You are complete. You are enough as you are. Focus on your purpose and doing what's meaningful.